Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. It arrived at exactly 8:52 p.m., wrapped in black tissue paper, tucked neatly in a velvet box she once said felt like holding a promise. The bartender told me later she smiled when he called her over. Thought it was some kind of romantic surprise. That's her style, always expecting the world to orbit around her spotlight. When she opened it, she froze. Not because of the ring, but because of the note I left inside. Enjoy the company you replaced me with. Here's what you left behind. She didn't cry. She didn't gasp. She laughed. That's what haunts me the most. 47 minutes earlier, I was sitting in the parking lot of my own apartment, in the car I hadn't turned off in over an hour, watching condensation bead down the windshield while my fiancée, Audrey, was still working late. According to her calendar, anyway. But I had her Spotify account. We shared it. And I don't know if this counts as invasion of privacy, but when I saw she was listening to Toxic by Britney Spears on repeat, I knew she wasn't in a conference call. So I did something I swore I'd never do. I activated the AirTag I'd hidden in the heel of the red heels she wore on girls' nights. I know. It sounds pathetic. It is pathetic. But when you're constantly being fed crumbs, you start crawling. The location? A dive bar called Marlowe's, 26 minutes from where she worked. A place with neon signs, sticky menus, and zero cell reception inside. I drove straight there. I didn't walk in. I didn't confront her. I just watched from across the street like a ghost too ashamed to haunt the place. And there she was, perched on a bar stool, leaning into a man whose hand casually rested on her thigh like it belonged there. And maybe it did now. That was when I opened the glove compartment, pulled out the ring, drove to the nearest express shipping kiosk, and addressed the box. To Audrey, care of your new reality. It would reach her before last call. She just didn't know yet that I'd already left mine. When the bartender called, I thought it was a mistake. I was already halfway home, engine humming, hands numb against the steering wheel. But the voice on the other end was calm, professional, too calm. Is this Elwood? He asked. I swallowed before answering. Yeah, there's a woman here. Said you sent her something. She's asking for you. I wanted to say I wasn't available. I wanted to pretend I didn't exist. But instead, I turned the car around like some pathetic sitcom husband who just realized he forgot the groceries. Only I hadn't forgotten anything. I'd just delivered the final nail in the coffin. When I got back to Marlowe's, she wasn't inside anymore. She was standing out back, behind the bar near the alley, pacing, her heels digging into the wet concrete. And she wasn't alone. He was there too, the guy with the vodka sodas and smug jawline. He didn't even try to hide it. I stayed in the shadows, watching her wave her arms and point at the ring box like it had exploded. He just shrugged. I couldn't hear the words, but her face told me everything. She wasn't heartbroken. She wasn't sad. She was angry that I'd made a scene without even being present. Then, my phone buzzed again. Audrey, we need to talk. 5 seconds later. Audrey, this was childish. Then, Audrey, you embarrassed me. That last one hit harder than I expected. Not because it wasn't true, but because of the order of her priorities. Not, I'm sorry. Or, I can explain. Or even, I didn't mean for you to find out like this. No. Her first reaction was humiliation, as if I'd ruined her moment. I didn't respond. I sat in my car for another 30 minutes while she stood outside in that alley, texting furiously. The guy eventually walked away, clearly done with the drama. She chased after him for a second, then gave up. That's when she spotted my car across the street. She started walking toward me, her eyes locked on mine through the windshield like some kind of horror movie reveal. I couldn't move. She knocked on the window like she owned it. I cracked it open, but didn't unlock the door. You think this is funny? She snapped, sending that like some rom-com plot twist. You think cheating is funny? I asked. She scoffed. I didn't cheat. We weren't married. We were engaged. She rolled her eyes like that meant nothing. It's not the same. And you haven't exactly been thrilling to be around lately, Elwood. That was it. Not even a denial. No lie. Just shifting blame. She leaned in closer and whispered, you know what your problem is? You wait around for things to change instead of doing something. Then she walked away. And that was the moment I realized she was right. I had been waiting. But not anymore. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the way she moved on like it didn't matter. Like I was just a blip in her story, a disposable character in the drama of her self-obsessed life. After she walked away from my car that night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch staring at the TV while it played one of those late-night real estate shows, the kind where rich couples argue over which million-dollar house has a better view. It felt surreal. They were fighting about kitchen islands while my life was crumbling. I didn't block her. I should have, but I wanted to know what she'd say next. Somewhere inside, I still held on to the idea that she'd regret it, that she'd come to her senses. That maybe, just maybe, the woman I fell in love with was still in there somewhere. Instead, I got a text the next morning that just read, "So what now?" Not "I'm sorry." Not "Can we talk?" Just those 3 words, cold, clinical, like a business transaction. I didn't reply. By noon, she'd posted a story on Instagram. I'd muted her months ago when I first started suspecting something, but I checked anyway. There she was at brunch with friends, champagne flute in hand, laughing. No ring on her finger. No sign anything had changed. Just one emoji caption, "Bottle with popping cork." I nearly threw my phone across the room. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and opened a shared folder we used to plan the wedding. Photos of venues, vendor contacts, song lists, Pinterest links to table decorations she obsessed over. I hovered my cursor over the folder and deleted it without opening a single file. 15 seconds later, she texted again. Was that necessary? I didn't answer. My chest was buzzing with a weird kind of relief. It was the first time I'd done something final. Then came the kicker. That night, her sister called me. We'd always gotten along. Elena was the only person in her family who ever treated me like more than a placeholder. Her voice was soft, but serious. "She didn't think you'd actually send it," she said. "What do you mean?" She told me about the ring. Said you were too gentle. That you'd just quietly disappear. She was wrong. There was a pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. "She's not okay, Elwood. She's spiraling." I wanted to care. I wanted to reach into that old, familiar feeling and pull something out. But there was nothing left. "She made her choice," I said. Elena sighed. "I'm not defending her. But she's been messed up for a long time. She's scared of people who actually love her. Then maybe she should stop asking for love and calling it control." I ended the call. That night, I finally blocked Audrey. Number, socials, everything. But blocking someone doesn't remove the wreckage they left behind. It just stops them from watching you try to clean it up. 3 days passed. Quiet ones. No texts, no calls. I thought maybe it was over, that she'd taken the hint. I even started to feel something strange, peace. That kind of shallow peace you get when the chaos stops, but the wreckage is still smoldering around you. I was sorting through old boxes in our closet, packing up what was left of my half of the life we built, when the knock came. I didn't check the peephole. I just opened the door. And there she was, her mother, Diane. If Audrey was the storm, Diane was the cold front that always followed. Polished, expensive, and terrifying in that way only women who never cry in public can be. She wasn't holding flowers or sympathy. She was holding a manila envelope. "May I come in?" she asked, like this was a business meeting and not the fallout of her daughter's betrayal. I stepped aside, unsure what else to do. She sat on the couch like she'd been here 100 times, even though she'd always looked down on our tiny apartment when Audrey brought her around. And then she handed me the envelope. "She's filing for a dissolution of engagement," Diane said plainly. "She wants no legal entanglements. No claims to the apartment, to shared purchases, nothing." I blinked. Is that supposed to impress me? "She's trying to make this clean, Elwood. You've made it dramatic." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. I made it dramatic? I mailed the ring instead of throwing it at her face. That's restraint. "She's hurting." I leaned forward. "Is she hurting because she cheated, or because she got caught?" Diane didn't flinch. She told me what happened. She says she was lost, that the relationship felt one-sided, that she needed to feel seen. That line again. Needed to feel seen. That phrase had become the anthem of selfish people doing selfish things. "I would have done anything for her," I said. "But she didn't want love, she wanted applause." Diane sighed, folded her hands, and did the thing rich people do when they've already decided you're beneath them. "You were kind to her. But sometimes kindness isn't enough." "Maybe not," I said. "But it's a hell of a lot better than betrayal." She stood, adjusted her coat, and paused by the door. "You're not the villain in this, Elwood. But you were never going to be the hero she needed." And then she left. I stared at the envelope in my hands, thinking about all the nights I stayed up worrying about Audrey, defending her, loving her through every breakdown, every cold silence. every disappearing act. I was never trying to be a hero. I was just trying to matter. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened the envelope, signed the paper, and sent it back with one note of my own, handwritten at the bottom. You can keep the silence. I've lived in it long enough. I wasn't planning to go through her drawers. I just wanted to pack up the last of my stuff and leave. But when I opened the nightstand next to her side of the bed, the one I hadn't touched in months, I found something I wasn't meant to see. It was a tiny, brass key taped under the drawer, almost like it had been hidden in a rush. And attached to it was a small, faded tag with a number written in permanent marker. Unit 117, Harlan Storage. I sat there staring at it, trying to piece together why she would keep a storage unit without telling me. We shared everything, or at least I thought we had. And even if she'd gotten it recently, why hide the key? My first instinct was to throw it away, to let the mystery rot in a metal box and never find out what she buried there. But something gnawed at me. Maybe it was ego. Maybe it was that part of me still clinging to the idea that understanding her betrayal might somehow make it hurt less. So the next day, I drove to Harlan Storage, a dingy facility about 20 minutes from our apartment. The guy at the front desk didn't even look up when I walked in. I handed him the key and the tag, and he buzzed me through without question. The lock clicked open too easily. Inside, it smelled like cheap perfume and dust. There were 4 boxes, a standing mirror wrapped in bubble wrap, and, in the corner, a coat rack. Hanging from it was the coat I bought her for her birthday last year. The one she said was too flashy to wear. The one she never wore around me. I opened the boxes one by one. Photos. Of us. But they weren't framed. They were loose. Torn at the edges. Stuffed together like junk mail. I found an old Valentine's Day card I wrote her, unopened. A necklace I gave her that she swore she wore all the time. Even the ceramic mug I painted for her at some silly date night class. She had said it broke in the dishwasher. And then I found the envelope. It was thick, sealed, and labeled in her handwriting, Plan B. Inside, a printed itinerary for a one-way flight to Portland. A lease agreement for a downtown apartment, already signed. And a list of job contacts. Not mine. Not mutual friends. But someone named Colin listed at the top. Colin. The name hit me like a steel pipe. I remembered it now. Once, months ago, she slipped and mentioned a Colin in passing, then quickly changed the subject. A guy from her past. Just someone from college, she'd said. He's married now. Lies. All of it. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. I was the backup. The bridge. The place she stayed until the next place was ready. And this storage unit? It was her waiting room. I sat down on the cold floor, envelope in hand. And for the first time in all of this, I didn't feel sad. I felt replaced. Neatly. Strategically. And that hurt more than anything else. Because I hadn't been cheated on by accident. I'd been phased out by design. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing that envelope, Plan B, over and over in my mind. The way her handwriting curved, almost like she enjoyed writing it. Like this wasn't some panicked backup, but something she carefully constructed over time. The coat, the mug, the unopened card, all stuffed into a storage unit like relics from a life she never intended to keep. I thought I had hit rock bottom before. Turns out, rock bottom has a trapdoor. I couldn't let it go, so I did something I swore I wouldn't. I went back to the storage unit the next day. Not to dig through the boxes again, but because I needed to see it one last time. The physical evidence that this wasn't all in my head. That I wasn't crazy. That I wasn't inventing her detachment. But when I pulled up, someone else was already there. A car I didn't recognize, parked 2 units over. And standing outside my unit was Audrey. She was holding the key. My key. I'd left it in the car cup holder by mistake. I didn't even think she'd still have access to my vehicle, but apparently, she did. She must have come by while I was at work. Broke the silence. Slipped in like a ghost, and took what she needed. I stayed in my car and watched. She looked around before opening the unit. Then she pulled out her phone, pressed a number, and put it on speaker. The signal wasn't great, but I cracked the window just enough to hear it. Hey, she said, voice low. I need to talk to you before he finds out everything. A pause. Then a male voice. Audrey? What are you talking about? You told me we had more time, Colin, she hissed. Now everything's unraveling. He found the unit. The photos. The lease. There was silence on the other end. Then, I told you not to leave it all in one place. I didn't think he'd go through my stuff. He's passive, Colin. He's not like you. That line broke something in me. I'm not like you. I'd spent 3 years listening to her say I was the steady one, the one who grounded her, the one who made her feel safe. And here she was, talking about me like I was some harmless obstacle she forgot to step over. I can't just disappear, she continued. He could make things messy if he shows that envelope to anyone. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I opened my door, slammed it shut, and started walking across the lot. She spun around, startled, face pale like she'd seen a ghost. Her phone slipped from her hand. Planning your great escape? I said, my voice shaking, not from fear but fury I didn't know I had in me. Elwood, save it. You already said enough. I'm not like Colin. I don't lie with a straight face. She tried to speak again, but I wasn't finished. You know what's funny? You were always worried about being invisible, but you never once saw me. I walked right past her, grabbed the envelope from the unit, and tucked it under my arm. She didn't chase me. She didn't scream. She just stood there, stunned, like she hadn't expected me to show up in the script she wrote without me. That was the moment I realized the truth. This wasn't just betrayal. This was erasure. She wasn't leaving me for someone else. She was rewriting the story like I'd never been in it. After confronting her at the storage unit, I thought that would be the final page. I truly believed I'd walk away and leave the wreckage behind. Let her have her fantasy life with Colin or whatever illusion she was chasing. But people like Audrey don't just walk away from chaos. They feed off it. And when they lose control of the narrative, they panic. That's exactly what happened the next morning. It started with a knock. Not on my door. On my job. I was pulled into a meeting with HR. They said they'd received an anonymous complaint claiming I was emotionally unstable and had made threats toward a former partner. My blood went cold. The phrasing was too specific, too tailored. It wasn't just a lie. It was a trap designed by someone who knew how I'd react. I denied everything, of course, but the damage was done. They put me on leave pending investigation, which, let's be real, meant they were already deciding if I was worth the trouble. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about us anymore. Audrey wasn't trying to move on. She was trying to erase me and salt the earth behind her. Every message she was sending me now had a hidden subtext. Stay silent, or I'll burn it all down. I went home shaking, not from fear, but from disbelief. How do you spend years loving someone who now sees you as a threat? I opened the envelope again. The lease. The flight. Her contacts. I noticed one detail I'd missed the first time. A handwritten scribble in the corner of the itinerary. JFK Terminal 5, Tuesday, 8:15 a.m. That was 2 days from now. So she hadn't left yet. Which meant I had time. I didn't know what I was going to do. Not exactly. But I knew this. If she wanted a clean break, she wasn't going to get it by ruining mine. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted the truth to stand on its own. So I did the only thing I could think of. I printed out everything. The lease, the photos from the unit, the Plan B envelope. I wrote a timeline of everything from the moment she started pulling away to the night at the bar. Then I emailed it. To her employer. To Colin's listed workplace. And, yes, to her mother. I didn't include any commentary. No threats. No name calling. Just facts. Dates. Screenshots. Receipts. I let the raw truth speak louder than any accusation. That night, I turned off my phone. I didn't sleep. I didn't feel victorious. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering what she'd do when she realized the silence she counted on had finally broken. The fallout didn't happen all at once. It unraveled slowly, like watching the tide pull back after a storm. The first email I got was from her mother. No subject line, no signature. Just 3 words. You were right. I didn't respond. Then came the call from HR. After a brief reevaluation, I was told the anonymous complaint was dismissed. They didn't apologize, of course, but they cleared me, and that was enough. I kept my job, my dignity too. And Audrey? She never got on that plane. I know because I went to Terminal 5 on the day of her flight. Not to stop her, not to confront her, but because I needed to see with my own eyes that it was truly over. I sat in a quiet corner near the departure gate, watching every face. She never came. Later that night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You win. That was it. No name. No follow-up. But I knew it was her. Only this wasn't about winning. It never was. That kind of thinking is what got her here in the first place. Treating love like a competition, people like pieces to move around. I spent so long mourning what we had, but the truth is, I never lost something real. I lost the illusion of it. And for the first time in years, I'm starting to feel like myself again. I signed a lease on a new place. Small, quiet, with a crooked mailbox and a neighbor who plays piano in the afternoons. I even started journaling again, not to dissect my past, but to make peace with it. Audrey may have written up Plan B, but I never needed one. I just needed to stop waiting for a better ending and start writing my own beginning. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Let me ask you, have you ever found something, an object, a message, a moment, that completely changed the way you saw someone you loved? Drop your answers in the comments below. I want to hear your turning points, your "I finally saw it" moments. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Reddit Confessions, where quiet people finally tell the truth out loud. Until next time, take care of your heart.